Welcome back to the Orange Peel Podcast. Today I'm sitting down with Delio Pera, someone you may have seen on Simply Bitcoin or around Bitcoin mining content. What really stood out to me about Delio is his path into Bitcoin. He didn't come from a finance or some elite tech background. He came from, working in a hardware store to becoming a Bitcoin mining advocate, media personality, and now a fiction writer, which I'm so excited to ask him more questions about later on in this episode. So today we're just going to talk about, Bitcoin mining in a way that actually makes sense, where Bitcoin might be headed over the next few cycles, and why storytelling might be one of the most powerful ways to introduce people, especially Gen Z, to Bitcoin. So, Delio, thank you so much for joining me. I'm very excited to get to know you and get on with this episode.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it'll be fun.
All right, so let's just start at the very beginning then, because I do think your story is pretty insane and pretty relatable. So, for people that don't know you, basically, who are you and how did you end up in Bitcoin?
So you can steal this question for any future guests, but I heard a guy when I was at the recent Mining Disrupt conference expo down in Texas. He said, "When did you first ignore Bitcoin, and then when did you pay attention to it?" Because I think basically everybody has that story. I haven't met anybody that said, "Well, the first time I heard about it is the first time I just went head first and knew that this was the best money that had ever been found." So the first time that I ignored it or was aware of it and kind of was like, oh, whatever, was it was must have been near 2010, 11 ish, because I moved to the Seattle area in right in January of 2010. And I like to say that I grew up on the internet on 4chan. So I was homeschooled. And so I was very sheltered. I couldn't even watch a Disney movie because there's magic in Disney movies. And so like that level of sheltered, homeschooled. And so once I got out of that and was living on my own, I intentionally told people and coworkers and various people, like, how do I desensitize myself? Like, how do I have that clockwork orange experience? Was like, oh, this is what the world actually has. And they said, well, go to 4chan. And that worked. And it was on 4chan that I learned about pirating movies and going to the Pirate Bay. And on the Pirate Bay, you would see this Bitcoin address. And it's just a long string of characters. It's like, I didn't think anything of it besides that's a thing, apparently, because it was on the main search page every time you went there to make a donation. And I didn't even bother looking into it, didn't even know what to look into aside from it's a thing that exists in the world. Okay, cool. Moving on with my life. And then it wasn't until the whole GameStop craze, and I think that was the beginning of 2021 when that roaring kitty and oh, GameStop is going up, it's going to the moon, and that whole GME, all that was happening. And I'd heard for years that being any person that's in the working world, you should invest some of your money. You should have a 401k. If you work for an employer that does matching, you absolutely want to get all that matching money. So I was like, all right, well, I feel like if the media and everybody online is talking about this thing, GME, GameStop, then I've probably missed the boat. I mean, it's probably a little bit too late for me because it's already at $250 when I'm hearing about it. And they're talking about how they got in at single digits. Oh, $5, $3, and they 500x their money or whatever. Okay, cool for you, but I don't expect this to go to $1 million, and I guess I should ape into this. But it was my clue to start paying attention to money and learning about money and starting to go down that rabbit hole. And with my brothers, we started this little investing pool where we would put, I wasn't much money. It was like $100 a month or something, whatever we could afford, into this pie. It was called It was a kind of like Robinhood, kind of like, I don't know, some investing app. I don't know what their claim to fame is, but the idea was that you could build these various pies. So we had, I think, two or three different pies. We had the pies that were just kind of like your normal thing: Disney, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, things that they just kind of grow, and come to find out they just kind of grow because money printing, they're not really growing, they're just kind of treading water. And then we had this other pie that we called the tard pie, which was, we didn't, let's hope for the best here. Let's see what happens. Just things we don't know anything about. But this was all part of my learning about money process. And in that, I came across Lex Friedman's podcast in the same month, it was April of, I think, that year, 2021, that he talked to, I don't know which it was first, doesn't matter, Savadine Amos and Michael Saylor. And those are two of like the most orange pilling people, prophets, whatever, evangelists of Bitcoin that there are. And after hearing both of them talk, especially Saifedean, I really like the way that he presents things, and he just has this no craps given. He just says what he thinks, and if you don't like it, then you can go piss off. He doesn't care. But I like that. I like that a lot. And I was like, okay, this guy seems like he's not here to make friends. He's just here to tell you what he thinks is true. And so I read his book. I was like, oh wow, there's a lot here. Holy crap. And I kind of just went headfirst into trying to find, as probably anybody that does in Bitcoin, like, where's the problem? What am I not seeing? What isn't everybody else seeing? And trying to poke a hole into it, asking my brothers, asking anybody, like, what am I not seeing here? And then when I would reach a question, like, here it is. This is how it can get shut down. And then asking other people, like, that's not how that can get shut. That won't ever happen because every government across the world would basically have to coordinate to agree and shut down the internet for all time. So that's probably not going to happen. Or all the governments across the world become fiscally responsible. Also, probably not going to happen. It's like, okay, that's a really good point. That's probably not, neither of those things are probably going to happen. So more and more you look into it and you go, okay, this, I'm not seeing any major holes here, and it's clearly a better form of money than all these stocks and bonds, which aren't, those aren't, I mean, I guess you could say that they're a form of money, but it's not a thing that you can go out and spend and do anything with. So I guess this is what I'll invest in. And so yeah, that's my Bitcoin story and how I got into it. And that's been I guess, well, 4 odd years now. And so I saw the most recent halving happen. And so I guess I would say in the class of, or whatever, however people term that, 20, so whatever, 21, whatever. So I've been in for about 4 years now.
It's really, really interesting. That's a great question, actually. I'm going to write that down after this interview. I think asking people, when they first encountered it and ignored it and then
Yeah.
rediscovered it, I think that's a really, really great way to put things. Yeah, I mean, with all of that, with all of the times that you encountered and you researched Bitcoin, was there something about it that really kind of sat with you and made you think that, okay, this thing is actually here for good and this thing is actually here, to stay and not just this, crazy internet fake money thing that, people tend to rave about?
Yes and no. I would say the thing that stuck to me is that I realized how so many people online, they'll point to all these different problems. Oh, the problem with the world is this, and they'll point to something like our food, or the problem with the world these days is social media. They'll point to all these various things, but all of the things that most people talk about are, like, every single one of them is a downstream effect of money and broken money. I can't find something that is further downstream from money. Maybe morals, I suppose. Like, if you have a broken moral system, then maybe that is that your money would follow suit there. Okay, yeah, okay, maybe that. But money pretty much ties to everything. I've never met somebody that has gone their entire life without using money. I no, I don't transact. I just kind of exist. Well, you do for a day, but then you have to spend money to do something or interact with some kind of exchange, whether that's barter or dollar, whatever the case is. Like, you only have so much time and energy personally, and you kind of need to trade that in some way. And that's how I see Bitcoin or money, is it's time and energy abstracted into a form that we can trade. And so learning that money connects to basically everything that you can think of, and so many of the downstream effects of our world, and the poor food or poor health or screens or what have you, can be traced back to money and broken money and people with high time preference trying to get as much money as they can. And I often hear, especially working at a hardware store, that we live in a throwaway society. Back in my day, you could buy a whatever, fill in the blank, and you would just go and get it repaired. You wouldn't just throw it out and buy a new one. These days, it's cheaper to buy a new one than go and get it repaired. But you only want to get it repaired if it was worth getting repaired, and so few things these days are. What was the second part to your question? You said, what was this thing that stuck to me? And then what was the other part?
Something that made you see it as something that was here to stay and not just this fake internet money, right?
Yeah. Well, to be perfectly honest, I don't know. The thing that I like to say, and I still will keep on saying this, is that I am truly convinced 100% that our monetary system in the US, because that's where I live, but it seems to be the case in most parts of the world, is broken. And the power of money printing being in the hands of a select few governments, government officials, politicians, and everybody else having to work for that money that they can print out of thin air when they want to. Like the US just went through this long, I think the longest ever government shutdown, 6 weeks, and all these things are on hold. And then they just decided, they agreed, did all whatever the backroom deals that they needed to do to go, and now we'll make more money and we'll just do that. Whereas I can't just do that. I can't go, you know what, honey, let's just have more money today. And well, hang on, I don't know if we should do that because we maybe we shouldn't. Well, and then we have a back and forth, and like, oh wait, we came around, we figured it out, we stopped filibustering each other, and we just have more money now. We can't do that, and I think it's just absolute nonsense. So I'm convinced of that. Do I know that Bitcoin is the answer? I don't, but I don't know of anything better. I come up that with real quick, like it's not any other of these dumb poo coins out there. It's not a stock. It's not a bond because those are all downstream. They look like they're doing well. Oh, look, my S&P 500 account is up. It's like, oh, not really. Have you also noticed that we're $38 trillion in debt? So they just printed more money. So there's more dollars going around. Yeah, nominally, your money went, your stocks went up and your house went up in value, but also not really. So yeah, I don't know if Bitcoin is the answer. I hope it is. I mean, I've kind of invested a lot of time and energy into it, so I sure as heck hope it is. But I certainly don't know of anything better.
I think this is something that's really important to recognize more in this space, right? The more that I talk to Bitcoiners, the more conversations that I have with people that are very convicted in their thesis about Bitcoin. I do realize that, it is something that is so far removed from the current financial system and the current form of money, and that is why people tend to believe in it. But as you very well put it, nobody really knows that it's the answer to all of the world's problems. Nobody really knows that it's going to be the perfect or the most sound form of money. And I think that part tends to scare people a little bit, because when I talk to my friends, people of my age, my peers and everything, who are curious about Bitcoin and they want to start learning or start investing, one of the first questions that they ask me is, well, how do you know it's for real? Or how do you know it's actually a solution to inflation? Or, like blanking on the words, but inflation is
Mhm.
kind of the main metric. So this is a little off topic, but I think you might have some good insights on this. How would you go about approaching that situation? How would you go about explaining that, even though we don't know, this is still something that we believe in?
I think I would point them to, I forget the exact title of it, but I think if you ask an AI, especially Gemini, because Gemini is Google and YouTube is Google. So Gemini, if I'm trying to find a video on YouTube, I don't ask Grok, I ask Gemini. And if I'm trying to find a tweet, I ask Grok because Grok is integrated with X. I'm saying this because if I tell you the video to look into, you might go, well, I asked Grok and I couldn't find it. Well, don't ask Grok, don't ask ChatGPT, ask Gemini, the thing that's like married in a hybrid form of Google. So ask Gemini. But there's a video. It's Michael Saylor, and it's something like 20 or 21. I think it might be 21, which would make a lot of sense. Reasons for Bitcoin and not equities, something like that. If you search that, Google it, ask Gemini, you can almost certainly find it. And I don't know if the guy has notes. Probably not. He might have them here. He doesn't look at notes, but he goes and rattles off for basically, it's with Nick Bhatia, not Nick Bhatia on the Bitcoin layer. That's who he's with. So if you search that, you should be able to find it. But he lists all of these reasons of why an equity, a stock, a bond, like why investing in a company is not a good idea. There's all the legislation issues. There's the political reasons. There's all, he just goes on. There's the board and there's the transportation issues. And so you might like Apple today, but what happens when it's not Steve Jobs, Tim Cook? What happens if he leaves, which is bound to happen at some point in time, and the new guy comes in and he's got some wacky ideas like, oh, let's do leopard print phones because why not? And you're like, oh, the shareholders didn't like that, and the stock tanks. You have all of these risks when you're investing in a company, even if it seems like the best company in the world, and like things can happen to companies, whereas things can't happen to Bitcoin. And people are like, what are you talking about? The government can shut it down. No, it can't. I mean, China, one of the most totalitarian top down regimes in the world, and a huge portion of the mining world tried to do that, and all it did was reduce hash rate for a few weeks, and then things evened out, and most of those miners went elsewhere around the world because that's how that happens. And now we're back, and we're in the highest hash rate ever. We're in the zeta hash range now, which is absolutely mind-boggling numbers of calculations and guesswork that these machines are doing. And people keep on adding more hash rate to the system because they want to get poor, because Bitcoin's doing nothing. No, that doesn't make sense. It's doing something. So it's like the difference between betting on your buddy or your buddy's buddy or some person that you know's company, and like, well, I'm going to invest, and he's got good ideas. I've heard him. I've heard his pitch, and it seems good, and he's got a good idea, and I think this is going to work. But you don't know that. Do you think of all the I'm not asking you this, but anybody listening to this, do you think that the people, and this, maybe there's some exceptions here, but do you think most of the people setting out to make a movie want the movie to fail? No, they want it to do well. They're working on it. They go out there, they put all this money in Marvel, Disney, they have tons and millions of dollars going into these franchises. They want it to do really well. And yet sometimes they don't. Sometimes they get a big old stinking flop on their hands, but they really tried. And you might go, oh, this is the sure thing. This company right here, this one right here, Sam Altman and ChatGPT, guarantee. I've heard him talk. He's up there. He's so charismatic. To all the AI, and how much money has he made? No, he's lost billions upon billions of dollars. So yeah, okay. So this brings me on to Bitcoin. It just is. It just is. It's like saying, well, energy will stop. No, it won't. No, no, energy is not going to stop. You can't create it or destroy it. It just is. And all Bitcoin miners are doing are converting energy, whether that's solar or wind or hydro. It's just taking this energy and putting into this thing that we call Bitcoin. And it's stuck there now. Now that energy went into the machine and went here in energy, like in a Dr. Seuss machine. If something comes in this side, goes in here, and something else comes out over here. And over here, you've got these numbers that you can't do anything else with. I mean, you can trade it and you can money, but like once it's in there, that's it. It's in there. So I have way more trust in that, like land being land. Like if I could invest in gravity, like bet on gravity still doing what gravity does tomorrow, that's a bet I'm going to take, because I'm pretty sure gravity is going to still make things drop tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And so, well, I don't know, it might not do that one day. I'm going to bet that it's going to do it for at least as long as I'm alive. And I see Bitcoin being the same kind of bet. Well, what about the short term? Yeah, okay, it was at 126, whatever, a couple months ago, and it's down to 90, but that's just the short term. Like it does that. The governments are going to print money. They're going to be fiscally irresponsible. And that means that Bitcoin has to go up. It just has to. It's like, oh, if I throw this rock, it might not come down. Okay. I guess I'm not going to take that bet though. I'm going to bet that it does fall down.
I do agree that, it is all about the mindset that you approach Bitcoin with. And I think something that my generation, but this isn't specific to people my age, right? This is anyone who's new to Bitcoin. We struggle with adopting a long-term mindset, with adopting that low time preference that is so integral to understanding Bitcoin and understanding why we need it, why you need to invest in it, and why you need to believe in it, in all honesty. So it really is something that is very nuanced, is very, I think the best way to put it is something that needs to be talked about more, that you are going to feel like really rattled with all of the short-term volatility, and you are going to question your decision to believe in Bitcoin. But it really comes down to how strong is your conviction and how determined are you to stick with what you have now kind of stood your ground on. So with that, I want to transition a little bit into mining, because if I'm correct, your work now is focused there. And, I think mining is one of the most misunderstood parts of Bitcoin, especially for, most of my audience. Like, honestly, I don't think any single one of my friends could tell you what it is, and I could try to explain it, but probably not do it super, super well. So let's start super, super basic.
Okay.
What is Bitcoin mining?
All right, I'll explain it in a way that anybody that you talk to could understand. I promise you. If you can understand monkeys, like if you have any idea what a monkey is, if you know what a typewriter is, or a computer, we can be a little bit more modern. If you know what a monkey, a computer, and bananas are, then you can understand Bitcoin mining. Okay, that's all you need to understand, those three things. Monkeys eat bananas. Monkeys, in this analogy, monkeys and the typewriters are your ASICs, are the computers doing the mining. And I know some people get hung up on the word, but you can replace mining with calculations if you want, work, energy, whatever. It's like saying that your computer is processing. I've got a computer, it's on, I've got a screen here, I've got a camera, it's doing something, it's doing work, it's taking energy from the grid and allowing me to do these various things. If the power goes out, then I can't do these things anymore. My lights go out and it all goes away. Okay. When Satoshi first came up with Bitcoin, his monkey was really basic. It was like a really simple, like Curious George type furry monkey, and it had a really janky computer. And the difficulty to find basically Satoshi came up with a game. He's like, I've got a monkey, I can feed it some bananas, and I've got a typewriter here. I've got a fun game. I've got a game. I'm gonna task this monkey. Let's just say that the monkey can understand some real basic commands. I'm gonna tell the monkey, start typing, and the monkey just sits there. That's all it does. It sits there, and when it gets hungry, it eats a banana and keeps on typing away. And it just types nonsense. It's like rolling your face against the keyboard. It's just absolute gibberish. There's no words. There's no story. It's just a bunch of gobbledygook. But every once in a while, it does type a word, like a legible word. It's probably just 2 letters, like it, or maybe in some rare cases, the. Maybe in a super rare case, it's like polywog or something. That'd be crazy. That'd be super uncommon. But the most common times, it gets the difficulty of such. We got one monkey, it's typing away, it gets 2-letter words. We'll leave aside single-letter words like I and A. Okay, it's technically a word, but it's got to be a 2-letter word. And so Toshi goes, oh, this is a pretty fun game. I wonder if I can get anybody else to join me on this game. And he goes over to Hal Finney and he says, hey, look, I've got this game. And Hal's like, okay, I'll join you on this silly game. I got a monkey, I got a spare monkey and a keyboard and some bananas, I can feed it. Sure, let's see. And they start mining Bitcoin together. That's how the game works. So the monkey and the computer, or the keyboard is your ASIC, or back then it was just your basic computer. You didn't need a specialized computer. Let's fast forward to today. Now we have super hybrid cyborg genetically engineered crazy monkeys that they type 1,000,000 times faster than Satoshi's Curious George monkey. They only need a tiny little bit of banana to stay fed. They're super efficient and they just pound away on keyboards. And there are companies out there that had factories and factories with thousands and thousands of these monkeys, and all they do is type out. But there's so many monkeys in the world doing this now that the game has gotten way more complicated than 2 letters. They have to type out an entire page of Shakespeare or Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. It doesn't matter which page. It's irrelevant. It just has to be an entire legible page. But because there are so many monkeys doing this all over the world, billions upon billions of monkeys doing this. I mean, there's not really that many ASICs, but there's a lot of ASICs. There's tons of thousands, millions of them calculating so many calculations, or it's not even calculations. It's just guesses. That's what the monkeys are doing. It's just dumb, stupid guessing, trying to get a legible page. That's how difficult it is. And as more monkeys get added to this, because people are like, I want to join that party, the reward of a Bitcoin, if my monkey types out a page, that's a pretty sweet thing. And you can see people every once in a while. There's a person that'll find a block with their solo miner. That's really unlikely. It's like having 3 monkeys compared to a factory full of monkeys. Who's got a better chance of finding that entire page? Probably the guy with the factory. But you have to feed a lot of bananas to all of those monkeys to keep them going. Even though they're super efficient, you still have to have a lot of bananas. So the person that has the most monkeys and the cheapest source to bananas, energy, has an advantage. A lot of monkeys, a lot of cheap energy, you're doing pretty good. That's Bitcoin mining explained as monkeys. The person with the most monkeys with the cheapest energy is going to have a higher chance to get an entire legible page of whatever, doesn't matter. And thus, when that page is, oh, hey, this monkey got one. Okay, you get the Bitcoin. Keep on going. And it doesn't stop. There's no pause. It just nonstop. Bing, there's one. Bitcoin to you. Oh, bing, over there in China. Bing, Bitcoin to you. Paraguay. Bing, there's one to you. France, there, Florida, whatever. Whoever's monkey. And this is just happening roughly every 10 minutes. A monkey types out a legible page. And at some point, it'll get so complicated and the hash rate will be so high, there will be a trillion freaking monkeys. And the difficulty will be, I don't know, an entire book's worth. That's how difficult it'll be. Or if something happens and an entire country shuts off, like in China, what happened in China some years ago, then the difficulty will drop and it'll go back to, oh, half a page or a sentence, whatever. That's the difficulty. And the difficulty rises or falls depending on how many monkeys are participating in this.
Okay, so to put things into context, then why does mining matter for Bitcoin as a system in order to keep, I guess the blockchain running?
So there wouldn't be any more, like if all the miners shut off and let's just imagine and just it was just a brain fart and everybody just decided no more mining. Well, then the amount of Bitcoin that we have, which is like something 19 and a half million coins, that would be it. That would just be it. But there would also be another problem. There wouldn't be any more Bitcoin added, but there also no transactions would happen. So when you go to like mempool.space and you see a block, here comes a block, here comes a block. It's Bitcoin is weird because it's a lot of things at once. So at the same time that it's the monkey guessing game, it's also kind of like a train, and each block is like a train car. And if I want my transaction added onto that train car, I have to pay the conductor. I go, hey, I'd like this box of transactions. I got a box of money. I want to get on the train car. And the conductor's like, okay, nobody else wants to be on this train car. The demand is real low. Sure, it's $1. I'm like, sweet, here you go. Here's $1. Boom. But maybe it's a really busy time. Like people during the halving, people wanted to get their transaction on the halving block. I don't know why, for bragging rights, whatever reasons. And so they're like, I'll pay $100 to get my block on there. And everybody's trying to jam into that. And he's like, okay, $100 for you. And some guy's like, screw that guy, I'll pay $200. Like, oh, well, sorry, Mr. 100 guy, you're going to have to wait for the next one. It's like, no, I want to be on that one right there. I've got to be on that block. I want to be in that car. He's like, okay, well, the price is now $300. So you can see block space being in demand for various reasons. People want to move things around. But right now, my favorite dashboard is timechain-calendar.com. And you can see, let me pull it up right now, and it's been this way for a while. The priority, like it's basically free. You could move $1 billion for probably less than $1 because the priority, what you're paying for is the space. So if you're just moving one transaction to one transaction, you're going to pay hardly anything. But imagine you're all of Microsoft and you want to send, say, this one transaction, you've got 1,000 Bitcoin in this one address, but you want to send it to 10,000 employees. Well, each of those addresses requires more space because this slip of paper and this slip of paper, and you get 1,000 slips of paper, that takes up a lot of space, like physical space. And each block is only 8 megabits. So there's not a whole lot of, like, think about how much a song takes up or a text document. Like it's not a ton of room, but it adds up. And even though it's just text, the more addresses that you have, even the more going out, the more it costs. And so if you want your transaction on a block and you want it right then, you will pay the high fee of a single sat right now for a priority fee. That's basically nothing. And if it's anytime, it says it's 0.17. So it's like a fifth of a sat to get if you're like, I don't care if it's the next block or the next 5 from now. I just want it on sometime the next day, basically. You'll pay almost nothing because there's just not a whole lot of demand for on-block transactions. But the reason those blocks move or happen at all is because the monkeys are typing away. Basically, the monkeys are kind of like the engine of the train in a weird way. I guess I'm having to expand my analogy here. And so the train doesn't move unless the monkeys are typing.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I think it's making sense in my head. I'm like connecting those dots. One thing, kind of going off the bananas a bit. So, whenever Bitcoin comes up, again, talking to my friends who are, I think, very inclined towards social justice and very
Mhm.
inclined towards the climate crisis. We always talk about energy. We always talk about energy usage in mining. So I want to ask you firsthand, what's actually true about the amount of energy that Bitcoin mining uses versus, like pure misinformation? Like, is it actually as bad for the environment as people say it is?
I guess that's partly in the eyes of the beholder. If you think that Bitcoin is just a big joke and is a complete waste of time, then yeah, I could see how you would think it is a complete waste of energy. It uses as much energy as I don't know what it's at now, but it's like some sort, like there are small countries that use about as much energy as Bitcoin in total. But it's Christmas season and there's more energy going into Christmas lights so that people can have a festive look on their home right now globally than there is in Bitcoin. There's more energy that goes into the millions upon millions, literally, of hours that people spend playing video games than there is into Bitcoin. So there are many other things, and people go, well, yeah, but people are getting leisure from the video games. Okay, fair enough. And they're getting enjoyment and pleasure from seeing their neighborhood brightened in a joyful, festive way. Okay, fair enough. If that, I'm not going to say that the people's reasons are wrong. Like, if that's your take, then okay, fine. But I think that the benefits of far outweigh any amount of energy. Like, it could use 1,000 times more energy, and I still wouldn't think that it's even remotely a problem, because I think giving people freedom to use their time and energy in whatever damn way they please is the best thing that you could possibly do with your money. Like, if I don't have truly access to my money, then what that means is that I am not allowed to spend my time and energy in the way that I want to. I only have so many hours and so many breaths and so many words in this body until I cease to be. And some of that time and energy and heartbeats and breaths and movement that I have is spent going to a place where I take a physical old school piece of paper and I push it into a clock and it goes ka-chunk, and that marks when I clock in. And then 4 hours ish later, I do it again to clock out for my lunch. And then 30 minutes later, I do it again and I'm back in. And then 4 hours later, I do it again and then I go home. And my time and energy spent at the place where I'm doing the ka-chunk thing and going around and answering the phone and answering questions gets rewarded in the form of USD, the currency of the United States of America. They go, hey, thank you, Delio. Thanks for coming in and putting in your time and energy and spending it with us today. You didn't have to. You could have gone in a ditch and picked your nose for 8 hours today. You could have gone and smacked your face against the sidewalk. You could have gone and thrown bottles at cars, but you didn't do that. And we're really glad that you didn't do that. We're really happy that you decided to come here and be useful. And you were so useful that we're going to give you X dollars for the time that you spent here. Thank you for doing that. And I go, yeah, this is a pretty good deal. I'm probably going to do that again the next day. And they go, great, we'll see you a bunch of times over the coming years. And we're going to give you a bunch of money for doing that. Well, I mean, some money for doing that. So I'm not rich doing this. And that's what I have decided to do. And some people go to Wall Street and they go do their ka-chunk thing, or they don't. That's just salary. All sorts of people are making money, but you're spending your time and energy because most people can't just carve out an existence of life just by sitting and drawing sustenance in from the environment and then just somehow paying for all of the things that they need simply by existing. You have to trade your time and energy. Now, to bring me back around to the energy use, if somebody comes along and goes, I don't think that you should be able to buy that. And I go, why not? Well, I don't like that. Why don't you go and take this pine cone and shove it up your backside? I can do whatever I damn well please. What does it matter if I go and buy, for example, this Lego set that I recently bought and bring it home and build it? Well, it's got plastic, it's got plastic in it. And I mean, really, you're 41 years old. You really need to be buying Legos. What does it matter to you? Well, we think that you shouldn't do that. So we're going to turn off your bank account and so it's not really my money. It's yours when we want it to be yours. And Bitcoin goes, no, it's yours whenever you want it to be yours, no matter effing what. If you want to go and somebody goes, sure, I value the Bitcoin and here's a Lego set and here you go and there you go and happy day. And the government goes, we can't stop that. And you go, yeah, that's kind of the point.
Yeah, I think this is where that, the mindset comes into play again, because if you're thinking for the long term the way that Bitcoiners are, the way that you are, the energy use is really going towards a better purpose. It's going towards something that's more useful than, as you mentioned, Christmas lights. Or I read somewhere that banks use more energy than
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin does, which, obviously as Bitcoiners, we are very anti-institution. And I've talked about this on my channel as well. But I think that whenever Bitcoin scales, it always is going to run into politics and energy debates and regulation. And you touched on this a bit with the little money bit at the end there, where you're talking about how fiat isn't really your money. So one thing that I want to talk about is we're seeing a lot of regulation kind of happen on Bitcoin right now by these institutions. I tried to move money from my bank into River to buy some Bitcoin, and that money got held for a week. And then they were like, "No, we're not going to move this into the exchange," which I think is just ridiculous because number one, it's my money. Number two, it's a reputed exchange. I was moving it into River, which is something that people have been using for years. So, I mean, what's your take on that? Why do you think all this regulation is happening, and how do you think it's going to stop, if it is going to stop?
I think it'll stop when more and more people, like I imagine when that happened to you with that bank, whatever the bank is, doesn't matter. But I would imagine you probably had the thought of, well, maybe I don't need to be with this bank anymore. Well, maybe there's another bank that won't stop me from using my money any way I please. And I think that what's happening is we're going through a monetary change, and more people, I think the barriers that people have with Bitcoin not being like a tangible thing, like, oh, I can't hold it in my hand. Yeah, well, how often are you holding money in your hand? And so often I'm ringing somebody up at the hardware store and it's for like 58 cents. I mean, that's really common, less than a dollar, because they're buying literally a nut and a screw or like three nails or something, because it's like, I just need to be able to put my door back on. And so I need three hinge screws. And it's like, okay, well, that's 78 cents. It actually costs us more money to run their card after the fee and after like the cost of the product. So our margin gets eaten into, and all the process, like, if it, unless it's over $3, we are either breaking even or really not even making much money. So there's more times, well, I don't, maybe not more times than not, commonly, where somebody's buying something that's so little, and I just say, well, just take it. Just owe us. And they pay us back. It works for nuts and bolts like that. For other things, doesn't work so well because it just doesn't. But if it's a nut and bolt and I know the guy and he's going to be back in the next day or whatever, like a lot of these people are, because they're construction workers and what have you. We see them sometimes multiple times a day. So we know that the guy's good for it. He's going to come back and he'll make even. But I think as more and more people realize that most of their money is not a physical thing, like we would take cash in that situation, but most people just have their phone or a card. So you're not interacting with tangible money most of the time, anyways. Some people keep a little change on them or a few bucks, but most people, like the vast majority of people, are paying with some sort of digital form of money. And so I think as people your age and younger, and like it's just par for the course, especially with so many video games and all these different currencies, and people are like, oh, how are kids going to understand this currency and that currency? They're already juggling 300 different currencies between the different video games they're playing, like who, diamonds, gems, crystals, blue bucks, brown bucks, this upside down dollars, reverse dollar. Like, it's not difficult at all. And so you just go, oh, sats is one of those things. Okay, cool. This is how many sats. Great. Whatever. I pay that. It's not going to be difficult for people to wrap their heads around at all. Like, not even a little bit. Kids will take to it like fish to water. And so I think what'll happen is more and more established institutions like your bank, like other ones, will just see the writing on the wall and they will just have to join. It's kind of like, I think what we're seeing with money is kind of what happened with media. So the popular media these days, CNN, Fox News, they pale in comparison in viewership to certain YouTube channels like Joe Rogan, and the different YouTubers and podcasters get 1,000 times the views on certain podcasts that they have than any one of their stupid shows on TV. But why do they still exist? Well, I guess because there's so much money going into them in advertisers, but now you see CNN. They've got a YouTube channel. Fox News has a YouTube channel. They probably get more views on their YouTube channel than they do on their TV shows. Well, they have followed where everybody else has gone. The eyes went to the computer screen, the phone. So they're like, well, I guess people aren't really using TVs anymore. So I guess we got to go there. So if people are using a different money and they're demanding Bitcoin, then they'll just have to, or they'll go extinct. Like Kodak, they're kind of not really a thing anymore because they didn't see where digital cameras were going. Like, oh no, we're going to stay with cameras. Or Xerox, like people aren't using copy machines anymore because they just send an email. And there's a million examples of that kind of thing. And so either banks will get on board or they won't and they'll go extinct. I think it's just a matter of time. Is it going to happen tomorrow? No, it's not going to happen tomorrow. I mean, honestly, a lot of the people that don't have the capacity or care or want to understand Bitcoin will die before that changes because they're in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and they're just like, I have 5 homes and a million whatever plus dollars just in this one account. What do I need to know about Bitcoin for? I'm fine. Okay. And then your children, like my brother, he told me that he overheard a conversation of like two different families, and like these kids and like I don't know 20s 30s kids with their parents, their boomer whatever parents, and the kids were saying you've got to get into Bitcoin. And my brother just happened to overhear this at a, I don't know, a Denny's or something. He's like, if he heard that just randomly, that conversation is happening in a lot more places. Like I've had that exact conversation with the owners where I work. And so I know that this is getting out there and they see the chart and they go, well, Bitcoin was here. Now it's here. And my other account was here and it's here. Kind of seems like maybe putting some amount of Bitcoin or money into Bitcoin would be a good idea. And then more and more people will do that. And then they'll kind of forget about it. And then they'll remember about it 4 years later. I'm like, that did pretty well. Maybe I should do more of that. And then more of that'll happen. And it'll just be a progressive thing that happens. And people go, I guess we don't really need the old banking system anymore. I kind of am my own bank.
I want to bring this back to students for just a second because I know that's who a lot of people that are listening are. So if you were, in your early 20s today trying to build your career, trying to get your foot off the ground, how would you get into Bitcoin and would you go about, running a node or trying to run a miner yourself?
So this brings me around. I kind of want to mention something that earlier you mentioned how it's kind of difficult. People they don't have a whole lot of money to save, and you specifically talked about the volatility, and they see the price go up and down. If you're putting so much of your income into Bitcoin that you need it to go up, or else you can't feed yourself, then you're already screwing up. Like you want to be putting whatever's extra. And if you're like, well, I don't have extra, do you not have an extra dollar? Like it doesn't, you can buy $1's worth of sats. Like if you don't have an extra dollar and things are that tight, God help you. Like holy crap, that's like third world country. My house is on stilts and it got blown out by the last hurricane. I'm in Haiti and I don't know if I'm going to have a place to live or where my next meal is coming from. Tough. I don't think that's most people that have the ability to watch your podcast on a computer in today's world. So if you have $1, you can get on River, you can get on Cash App. There's many places you can buy $1's worth of Bitcoin. You're like, yeah, what's even the point? Well, I guess you either have it kind of comes down to, do you have hope for the future or do you not? Are you a nihilist or are you an optimist? Do you have zero hope for the future? Well, then why are you here? Like, I'm not advocating people in their lives. Like, I'm very hopeful and optimistic for the future, but you're still here for a reason. And if you're here for a reason, then you should plan and hope that there is more time that you're here. And if you are that mindset, then maybe you'd want to have some kind of any amount of savings. And if you see what the dollar has done and you see what Bitcoin has done, then you should save in something, like whatever that is. And it is my strong opinion that the best thing to save, and not financial advice, is Bitcoin. um, Somebody should do and with their life. Like I'm a high school dropout. I kind of diddled around in college, the community college for a little bit, but I think that largely speaking, you don't need the higher education system these days to do whatever the F you want. There are some fields where maybe a degree is required, and I'm even hesitant to say that, but there's so much more money to be made in working with your hands and finding something that you enjoy doing and providing value for somebody. If you're like, I like working with wood, you can make a lot more money just doing things with wood and going and building things for people, becoming a contractor, than you can by spending the next X years of your time going into learning about computer science just to be replaced by AI by the time you get out of school. And oh, by the way, you're $75,000 in debt. Good luck with that. I, yeah, any children that I have will not be pushed towards college because I think that it is largely the entire institution, most of the institution, higher education, has been hijacked by people that I do think that this is going to sound pretty extreme, but I think that we are living in a world where there is, at the core of it, a death cult. Like, I think that there are people that have so little respect for human life and their own lives that they actually want to bring other people down to their level. And I think, regrettably, a lot of those people are in higher education places. And I say that because I don't see people leaving higher education with a sense of fulfillment and happiness. Like, I work with two guys that are out of college and they can't find a job in their degrees that they got by spending a lot of money to go to college, and I make as much, if not more, because of how much time I've been at the hardware store than they do. And everyone that they know can't find jobs. And it's not like they're not trying. They are trying. They're not out there. And they spend all this money and time for what? Like, to make friends? Hey, that's definitely worth something. That's great. But if that's what you're going to college for, be honest with yourself that that's what you're going for. Oh, I'm going for the networking. Okay, cool. Is that worth $75,000? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe the connections are worth that amount. I don't. It's not worth that to me. Certainly at this point in my time in my life. But I think just going out and doing stuff is way more interesting. Like, you have one life to live. Do something. Why would you strap yourself to a chair and go to a classroom for hours and hours a day unless there was a clear, shining beacon of light that is undeniable and you know for a fact is going to be there? Like, I don't know, a buddy or a family member's company that says, once you have this degree, here's the signed contract for the job that will have you set for the rest of your life. But you got to do the 4 years. Like, oh, okay, hey, there you go. But how many people have that on the line? Like, two?
It's really interesting that you bring this up, actually, because I was just having a conversation about this with my younger brother. He's 17 right now, so he is finishing up his junior year and he'll be in his senior year next year. And he's like, we were talking about it, and I was like, honestly, I don't know if college is worth it. Obviously, I'm in college, I'm studying computer science, and I'm actively seeing the jobs, the future that I had envisioned for myself a few years ago, just being completely taken over by AI. And it's not something that anyone was prepared for. So I'm not going to try and point, fingers and blame anyone, because at the end of the day, this is the way the world works. We are always looking for ways to become more efficient and more optimized. So it's really interesting to see the narrative kind of shift, because I think if you had, sat down 10 years ago and gone on a YouTube channel and said, I don't believe in college, it would not be as, I think, open to say that to, or it would not be, nearly as well received as it might be today. So it's good to hear from different perspectives. And, now I've got me thinking a little bit about, like, what is the narrative that I want to be pushing out? Is it worth for, people in high school right now to even think of going to college, or is it really just work with your hands, or if you have an idea, build something, be an entrepreneur, right? So it's a different world, and I think it's just insane. But that's part of the reason why I believe in Bitcoin, because I think it provides some kind of financial stability in a time that we don't have it in the economy or in the job market or really in any social way anywhere in the world. Let's pivot. Let's start talking about your book, because I listened to the first 30 minutes that you sent me, or the first 3 chapters. And then I was a bit upset that it ended like when it did. I was hoping it went on a little bit longer. But I think instead of me explaining it, I'd love to just give you the floor and let you introduce the book and kind of what your purpose or the ethos is, however you want to take this.
Okay. Well, I've been working on it for about a year, and this is the first time that I've talked about it. I've hinted at it on some different podcasts. I think on Robin Sayre. Maybe I've even said something about working on a book, but I haven't talked about what is in the book. And I'm not going to give the full spoilers or anything, but basically, I was trying to accomplish a couple things, and the first thing that I wanted to accomplish, hands down, was to write a book for Bitcoiners. So, as you can attest to, there's no long dialogue about here's how Bitcoining works and here's what Bitcoining is like. If you aren't knowledgeable about Bitcoin and you have no idea, then I hope it's an enjoyable story and it's at least makes enough sense to somebody that they go, okay, well, I don't really understand some of what's being said here, but I understand like this guy and a thing happened and that's a lot of money that it seems like he came into. Oh, well, maybe not. I don't know. He just got this strange text message that's telling him not to spend any of that. So that's interesting. So I think you wouldn't have to know dick all about Bitcoin. You wouldn't even have to know. It could just be like pure science fiction. It's like, I've never even heard of Bitcoin. And I think you would still be able to glean what's going on with the story. enough to appreciate it. But I don't really care about that audience, honestly. This was written specifically for Bitcoiners. So I didn't see any reason other than to just go, hey, I know what I'm talking about, to put in like what a BitAxe is, aside from giving a real brief description, because I think there's probably some Bitcoiners that don't know. I mean, not all of us are terminally online. There's some people that just buy Bitcoin and just forget about it and go about their day. And so it was a story for Bitcoiners first and foremost. And then the next thing that I wanted to do was like Card, as any character is going to be written by anybody, is going to have a lot of the author in it. But Card, the other thing that I was trying to accomplish is like fix some problems in myself. So I deal with anger majorly, and I get upset and I get overly angry and worked up about things. Like if you go back and watch this podcast, you'd be like, oh wow, he does get kind of worked up about various things. It gets really animated and like passionate, even though I hate that word, about things. So imagine that, but in a really pissed off way at various things. So that can be me at times. And so you'll see this card, and like at the beginning when the power goes out and he can't type on his laptop because he's got his old janky laptop and the battery's fried, and so it has to be plugged in. He's so pissed off, and he takes his anger out by slamming his laptop, and his girlfriend's there working on a piece of art next to the bed. He's pissed off to the point that he wants her to suffer too. So he doesn't mind that he shakes the bed and it jars her painting that she's working on. She's like, hey, watch out. But he's like, no, fuck you too, like basically. And I imagine anybody that has gotten pissed knows what it's like. It's like, hey, I'm on the crappy roller coaster and I want you on there too with me. And I've been on that roller coaster a million damn times. And it's not like I enjoy it. It's just kind of a thing about me. And so that's another angle to this, is like I work things out in writing. And so it's really easy for me to write an angry, pissed off character that overcomes out throughout the course of the story. At least that's the hope. And yeah, I wanted to make a fun story that was engaging and interesting. Like what would you do if you had I guess I can summarize this story by saying like the little tagline, like what would you do if your BitAxe found a block in the year 2034 when Bitcoin is worth $3.5 million? And that was, truly a staggering amount of money. And then you get contacted by some random person that somehow knows that you have this Bitcoin and says, don't spend it for a week. Would you spend it? Like, I don't know. And so I'll send you more of it. I'm going to send out the full first quarter of the book to you and plenty of other Bitcoiners to get feedback. But that'll be the kind of up to the point where a big decision is made, and kind of the book actually goes into the rest of it, and you'll see. But yeah, it was first and foremost a book written for Bitcoiners, not one of these other books. It's like, oh, it's written for a general audience, and oh, I'm going to throw Bitcoin in there because that's a thing that exists in the world. No, Bitcoin is integral to the story. If you take out Bitcoin, I don't think it really works.
What was the, kind of the guiding motivation behind you choosing to tell the story through fiction? Because we don't really have any fiction books that explore Bitcoin or even mention Bitcoin in this space.
There are 3 books that I know that do talk about Bitcoin, and only one of them is written by a Bitcoiner. And I read it. It's not the kind of book that I'm writing. His book is more of like a kind of like a Jason Bourne kind of type thriller, and that's called Blood of the Bourgeoisie, written by, sorry guy if I get your name wrong, I think it's Michael Sullivan. And that just came out earlier this year. And that one is the most accurate dealing with Bitcoin that I've heard. There was another one that was called The Atlas Maneuver, written by a guy that's written a bunch of other thriller type books. He's a well-known author. And Bitcoin is in there, yeah, but honestly, I think he maybe saw a headline somewhere about Bitcoin. Is like, oh, I'll have that be the thing in the story, as opposed to, I don't know, a piece of data that a company wants. Like, he could have probably swapped out the Bitcoin for really anything. And he's not a Bitcoiner. Natalie Brunell interviewed him, and I think he was more intrigued with the mystery of Satoshi. And he makes Satoshi a woman in the book, which I don't care. Make Satoshi whoever you want. But I think it's kind of defeats the purpose of Satoshi being anonymous. If you're just like, oh, this is Satoshi, it's like, I guess you can do whatever you want in your fiction stories, but all right. I think most Bitcoiners reading about Satoshi being revealed would just, no matter who it is, like, what's a conglomerate? Is it like, if you're giving the answer to like one of the coolest mysteries in the space, most Bitcoiners are like, okay, what are you doing here? And then there was another one. It's part of a series like CJ something another. He's a park ranger in Wyoming, and when he's out just like looking into some other crime, he finds a Bitcoin miner rig that's out there and like a hut. And so again, it's just sort of like these authors, I think they're not Bitcoiners from what I can tell. That maybe they have a little bit investment, but they're not Bitcoiners in the way like Savedine or Sailor is, and they understand it. I think they just heard about Bitcoin. They're like, well, I got to have something in my next novel, so I guess I'll put that in there. It's a popular topic that has a certain threshold of Google searches, so maybe that'll sell me copies of books. Whereas I think storytelling is the best way to get ideas across. I mean, there's a really good reason that Star Wars and the Marvel movies have made bajillions of dollars. It's because they're interesting stories and people get invested in these characters. And I don't know how invested people are going to get in the characters here, but if I write in an interesting and compelling way, and why fiction? Well, it's because I've written a fuck ton of fiction. None of it's published, but I've just that's what I do. That's my creative thing. I think most people have some creative thing, whether it's humming in the shower or like drawing finger doodles in the steam, whatever it is. So, like most people, maybe I'm wrong, have some kind of outlet, something that they enjoy doing, cooking, cleaning, whatever the heck. I guess cleaning's not very creative, but I like to write, and so I combining my interest in of Bitcoin and my love of writing, I was like, well, let's write a book for Bitcoiners by a Bitcoiner.
So, last kind of question here. When someone finishes reading your book, and I don't know if you've finished writing the whole thing yet,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
what is the message or kind of the core theme that you hope they walk away with?
I get the working title that I have right now is it's like time's preference, and I do want to do I think something with that, and I guess that I would want them to, it's kind of cliche, I guess. Money is just a tool and it's really useful. It's maybe the most useful tool that there is. But a tool is just a means to an end. It is not the end in of itself. Like I can't have a good experience with Bitcoin. Having Bitcoin can lead to a good experience. I can pay for a vacation for my wife and I to go on, and I can do things with my wife. But Bitcoin and I can't go holding hands and going for a walk. Hey, Bitcoin, me and my pal, like at the what are we talking about here? Like I can't do that. So no matter what, it's the friends that you, like I said, it's cliche, but it's the friends that you make along the way. It's the connections. It's what you do with Bitcoin that matters more than just having a shit ton of Bitcoin. Like it's cool that Michael Saylor's company has 600,000 whatever Bitcoin. It's like okay, all right, neat. But so what? It's really cool and yay, it's bringing awareness to it. But and are you gonna have a Bitcoin bank? Like, what are you gonna do? I know people can invest in. It's like, and so that's why I didn't want to. I think it's a lot easier to associate yourself with with a character that has some issues and things going on as opposed to a company. So I don't even know I'm mentioning this, but everybody's got to make a decision about what you're doing with the spare dollar that you have or the spare $1 billion that you have. When you have to make choices with that. And so I guess the takeaway is be mindful of your time.
I think that's a great takeaway. I mean, I really do love that you're using storytelling because it humanizes Bitcoin quite a lot, and that's something that we need in this space. We need more human connection and less kind of price talk or hype or all of the technical aspects. It's a totally different approach, and I really do look forward to kind of listening to whatever the next bit is that you're going to send me and hearing more about Card and Jess.
Okay.
So thank you again for coming on. That is it for today's episode. Now, Delio, if somebody is watching this and they have some questions or they want to get in touch with you, is there somewhere that they can find you?
Yeah, Twitter's the best way. It's just at Delio Delio Pera. My full name. I've got a unique name, so it was easy to get that one. I don't have some goofy handle, so it's just my name, Delio Pera.
All right. Well, I will link your X in the description as well. So if you want to get in touch with Delio, definitely shoot him a message and that link will be in the description. So just to wrap things up here, if you're a student listening to this or just someone, trying to make sense of money, technology and the future and Bitcoin, AI, all the things that we talk about on this channel. I hope this conversation showed you that Bitcoin isn't just charts and those like debates you see on X and all the hype you see on the internet. It really is people and stories and long-term thinking. So huge thank you, Delio, for coming on and sharing your journey. And I will make sure to link everything that we've talked about, all of the books, all of the resources in the description. So as always, stay skeptical, stay curious, and stay orange pilled. I'm your host, Nikki, and I will see you in the next episode.
Thanks.